There we go. And people will be slowly trickling in. We're going to give them a minute, but I wanted to officially start because I can't wait because we've got Jane Dancy with us. Hello, everybody. I've lost what day it is. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're in the festival. We're in the festival, and we still have today and one more day to go. So be sure to tune in because we've got amazing stuff coming up. Are you enjoying the festival, or is this your first time? Is this the first time you're kind of being with us? Let me share my screen and show you quickly what's coming up while people are trickling in. Share screen, there we go. So we're putting up this amazing festival with loads of people. We've got Jane now to talk us through wintering, but let me go to Wednesday. There we go. Ranko's coming up next, and Ranko's amazing. And finding the gifts within adversity. We've got new ways of speaking and listening to children for the parents of you. Dalai Lama's Ninja with Rick Hansen, who's amazing. Discovering What You Want with Melissa. Live coaching demonstrations. Be sure to turn up for those. You can get coaching. Patricia's coming up, who's also amazing. Just loads of good stuff. Martha Eddy, Sami Nakamura later on, and a full pack day tomorrow. So please be sure to, you know what I've been saying, share this with friends. You still have time. You can see what's coming up, but tell a friend about it. Let's spread embodiment to the world. Who are we and why do we do this? We are Embodiment Unlimited, and we do have courses that we do. We do these free events, and you can find us over other channels as well. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, we're on Facebook. Mark has Instagram where he answers questions that you can post to him. Those are there, all the links in the chat. But we also do courses. So if you've been enjoying the festival and you do want to kind of dive deeper into all these techniques and learn some practical, coherent, very, very effective tools, you can become a certified embodiment coach, or you can just do it for your own personal development. It depends where you're at in your life, if you're a professional or not. I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about the certification of embodiment coaching. It's a good course. It's a solid course. Now in the festival, you're getting kind of bombarded with different techniques and breathing and moving and continuum and all sorts of perspectives. It's great. And probably if you don't keep up with any of that over the course of the next few months, you're going to forget it, right? The course puts it all in a structure. You have specific things you have to do each week. One week you look at the 4 elements, another week you look at cycles, another week you look at something else. So centering, here are some of the tools you learn. Awareness coaching, 5 embodiment toolkit poses. So the course has a structure and it keeps you accountable, and you practice with your peers. You're in little peer groups. This course has lots of nice elements to really drive home the learning, really keep you accountable, keep you every week, giving you little organized bits and little bits of homework that you have to do with live calls. So it is a journey. I've been through it. Jen has been through it. Some of the people in this call have been through it. And it is a personal development journey, if nothing else. You come away a different person, for sure. So check it out. We have a very, very good team of course assistants, course managers. We have guest teachers that are coming on. Some of them, you've seen them in this festival. Very well-known people, very experienced in the field. So you really get lots of perspectives along with the main calls each week. It is really worth checking out. All right, I've talked enough about the course, but I haven't talked about Jane, which is not on. Jane is amazing. I'll paste her details in the chat as well. She's where do I start? You've been an embodied facilitator, coaching certificate yourself. You've gone through the training, Jane, and let me bring up some of the notes I have for you because there are a lot. I need to know where, there we go. You specialize in the female menopause and female pelvis. You've got over 20 years of experience supporting women through transitions and thresholds of life from menarche to menopause and beyond. Jane has founded the online Embodied Female Pelvis course, specializing in guiding women towards holistic pelvic health, well-being, intimacy, and connection. She works with individuals. She's an advocate of feminine cyclical wisdom and the healing power of mindful somatic movement, and combines a multimodality bio-psychosocial informed approach. So working with the physical body, working with how it intersects the mind, emotions, thought patterns, and the outer influences as well, culture, society, personal history. So she's a functional kinesiology practitioner. I can go on and on. She's also a mom, she's a spouse. But today we're going to talk about the radical act of wintering. Jane, I'll give it over to you. What is that? What is that about?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely intro. Hello, everyone. So hello from very early morning in the UK. So it's still dark and it's really cold here. So I'm very much in winter right now. I would love to see in the chat, where are you calling in from right now? So, and why you do that, I'll just tell you a little bit about where I come from with this. So I have a strong belief that as women, as females, we do things differently. We have we go through monthly cycles, whether we experience them or not. That's there within us, and that means that we do embodiment differently, a cyclical, non-linear way. And so the feminine perspective, I believe, is essential. And that's for everyone. That's for us as in our female bodies, but that's also for men to understand as well, especially when we are working with younger women, younger females. Really, really so important. Let's change the paradigm on this. So this is an embodied exploration of the radical act of wintering. So some of you who have done work with Mark and his colleagues, such as me, you might have done 4-season work. And it's a model that I use a lot. So it's a brilliant way to locate oneself, like, where am I right now? I use it a lot within perimenopause and menopause, when perhaps if someone's used to locating themselves within their menstrual cycle, perhaps that's not there anymore, or it's very irregular, the seasons become a way of navigating oneself and locating oneself. So this is where the wintering comes from. So, and this, I want to do in a very embodied, sensorial approach to this, so that we're sensory beings and we explore things through all the different senses. And for me, the winter is like the archetype for rest, retreating, composting. It's the fallow time. It also can represent loss, illness, and grief, and is really essential for rebirth, to complete the cycle and to come out the other way. What I present today is a suggestion, and it's really my musings on this. I usually do all the 4 seasons, so this is the first time that I'm presenting on just winter, but I feel it's very, very relevant to where we find ourselves in this moment in time. So what I say might not be true for you, and that's absolutely okay. And I would love to hear your thoughts, because this is like an embodied conversation that I will be having with you. And always know that you're the expert on your body and your experience, and we're all different, and everything lands differently, especially as cyclical beings. How something lands in me is different to you, and also how it lands in me today, it will be different tomorrow as well, because we're fluctuating, and that's okay. So what I do believe is what's really a useful thing is to bring a quality of curiosity and self-compassion, if that's available, and kindness to these kind of inquiries. So I'm just going to check I love to see where everyone is in the world. And also, while I just have a look at that, what arises, what comes first to your mind when you hear the word winter? Some of you are in very wintry places. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Yeah, and keep that coming. And it will be interesting to see where you are with that by the end of this session. All right, so what we're going to do in this session is I'm going to do a little settling practice with the 4 seasons, just so you've got a little container to where you are with it right now. And then I'm going to talk about it and we're going to explore it a bit. I really encourage you to put stuff in the chat. And if you've got paper, you can write stuff down, a bit of journaling, whatever you want. And hopefully there will be some time at the end for questions. So let's come into a settling practice. And also, if you feel inclined to turn your camera on, I would love to see your faces. It makes such a difference. I know here it's still early. I actually managed to get out of my pajamas for this, but yeah, it does make a huge difference. Thank you. And because I've got you on gallery view. Okay, so let's settle. So coming into a place for settling that is right for you now, that you can bring a little bit of awareness into yourself. So that might be sitting. If need be, you might need to lie down. So noticing how your feet makes contact with the ground and however the rest of your body makes contact. Returning your awareness into yourself. Noticing your belly, perhaps inviting some softness there. Some softness through your chest. Softening your tongue. Letting the breath flow. And so we're going to do a little check-in with the 4 seasons. So you can get a sense of where you find yourself. And you might not, and that's okay. So let's start with winter. So winter, it might be, if you are feeling wintry, it might be that you are very tired, feeling still and inward, like you are still under the duvet, and that's where you want to stay. It could be that you are in your bleed, part of your menstrual cycle, or it could just be that you feel, it can come with feelings of depletion. It can also come with that feeling of really wanting to close the doors, turn the phone off, and be within yourself. And then from winter, we move into spring. Those tentacles of interest start to move outward. There's a little bit of anticipation, fluttering of activity, curiosity, wanting to peek out of the duvet and open up the windows and see what's going on. That springtime energy. And then moving into summer. Summer. Charging. Getting on with things. You might be thinking, come on, Jane, get on with it. I want the meat of the practice. Things to do. People to see. High energy. And then coming into autumn. Releasing. Drawing in. Feeling that need to retreat into yourself. Quietening. Reflecting. And then we're back in winter. So that was a very whistle-stop tour of the 4 seasons. And you might locate yourself in 1 or 2, or you might not be too sure, but if you start to come out of that practice now, if you open up your eyes, if they're still closed, start maybe to look around your room, have a little wiggle, stretch, whatever you need to do. And then an invitation to put that in the chat. Where do you locate yourself at this moment in time? So we live in this modern culture where so much emphasis is put onto production and activity, to the point that even our downtimes can become a more doing rather than being. Another thing to add to the to-do list. Must go to Pilates, must go to meditation, must go to yoga. Does that resonate with anyone? So we can lose sight of those natural quiet ways, meandering, daydreaming, wandering of body and mind. And we can lose that connection to that part of our cycle of life, the darkness, the winter completion, that fallow time, which is so essential to our well-being, for our circadian rhythms. How also we manage to transition through really powerful cycles of life. Essential for being able to have restful sleep, to know when we need to rest, when our body's asking for it. Nervous system regulation, physical, mental health, and also for our hormonal health and immune health as well. And when we look at how the rate of immune disorders is going up in women, mental health, especially with younger women, something that it's really worth looking at what's sort of this systemically on what's going on here. So radical wintering, it's like radical rest. It's time for inner reflection, alone time, rest and recovery. And it's the groundwork, it's setting the foundation and replenishing the stores. And like I said before, when we don't do that stopping, that can lead to a whole host of things. Anxiety, depression, feeling out of control. And you might have your own version of what happens to that. This dark phase that is in every part of life is the transitioning between the death of what is old into the rebirth of what is new. When we are pushed into a linear perspective on life, it becomes a lot harder to comfortably, easily step into those dark phases. So we're going to do a little experiment here, and it's optional. I'm going to invite you to come into rest pose. For those of you who know embodied toolkits, it will be familiar. For those of you who don't worry, it's not complicated. And it's optional, but if you can, come and lie down on the floor with your knees bent on your back. And this is rest pose, arms by your side or hands on your belly. Embodied Toolkit rest pose is a really good way to explore relationship to rest, relationship to pausing, stopping. And we are in this for embodiment and to inquire on how is it for me? So as you come into that, I'm going to carry on talking, and I just want you to be aware of what it's like as you come into it. And every possibility is really welcome. So just to give a bit of context to that, when I teach yoga to teen girls within a school, and their favorite bit is the relaxation part, but they really struggle with it. I can see a lot of agitation in their bodies, and there needs to be a lot in order for them to sink into it, and sometimes they don't. And I do my best to normalize that. So bringing a sense of kindness to yourself. Where are you with rest right now? So this winter dark phase shows up in other parts of our life. And this can be quite useful as a way of like, this is something that I know and I can locate it in other areas. So within the cycle of the day, it's the deepest part of the night, the 2 hours before dawn. In the yearly rhythm, it's winter. Here, if we experience the 4 seasons. So winter is the time when life is drawn back into the dark underground to sleep and restore. But unfortunately, we then have Christmas, which can, if not well managed, it can really draw us out of that. And that's my experience. And then there's the moon, the dark phase of the moon just before the new moon. We can locate it around us and within us. So with the menstrual cycle, it's when we bleed. Essential time to slow and stop. But it's not encouraged or supported by society. And I wonder whether that's part of the reason why there is tension and pain. Disconnect. And I wonder how we can model something different to those that are younger than us. So the menstrual cycle, the bleed, is an invitation for a monthly retreat. And then there's menopause. So perimenopause is the autumn. Menopause is the winter, that part of stop, stilling. And it can be it's a very powerful rites of passage, initiation, but it also can be so lonely. Vulnerability comes up. There can really be a loss of a sense of self, turmoil. And what I see is that women are really struggling with this phase, physically, mentally. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it said about how 70% of divorces during this midlife phase are initiated by women. And I'm not going to make any set conclusions, but I'm just left with that. Like, I wonder what is going on here. And I wonder whether it could be different. The dark phase is also connected to loss, and loss can come in so many different ways. A disruption, a closure of a relationship, a loss of a job, or a belief system, or identity, a loss of a living environment. I remember having to leave my flat that I lived in for about 7 years in London years ago, and I wept. I was so into that house, and my identity was ingrained in that. We can also experience great loss from politics going on around us, from what's going on in the environment, from war and suffering. Huge right now. Huge. And also grief. Grief that comes from the death of a loved one. And I also want to bring in that the grief that comes within communities. When something has been lost, or someone very dear has been lost within a community, of like, how does that get held within? And I mean communities like villages or schools, or all of those different systems. When we lose something or someone that has given us life structure, meaning, purpose, we can find ourselves in this void, formlessness, and that can lead to real anxiety, depression. And there's this message by society to get on with it, perhaps. Toughen up, cope. Or it can get suppressed and swallowed. And this loss, these feelings around loss, can bring up shame and embarrassment. And so I would like it that we all look at this phase in a different way of like how we can support ourselves to go through it on the micro level, but also macro level. When my daughter was little, I used to walk her to school twice a day. It got to a point where she walked on her own, and I wasn't needed for that. And I tell you, that really spun me out. And it was a completion of something. And I found I really struggled to get back into another new rhythm. And I kept thinking at the time, why am I being so silly? But it was an end of a cycle. So how do we hold ourselves? How do we recognize and honor these moments? So some of you might be in rest pose, or if you're sitting, I'm hoping that you are thinking about how your body rests and what's it like to be still. And I'm really intrigued to know, what's your relationship to wintering, to retreating? How do you do it? Do you do it? Is there bypassing? I'm just going to skip winter. Avoiding, ignoring, hurrying through. Have you ever done that with a relaxation? Or collapsing into it? Collapsing into bed. Devaluing it. Feeling guilt and shame. That shame of slowing down and non-activity. So much emphasis being put on busyness. So I would love to hear in the chat, what are your thoughts? What patterns keep us away? What belief systems? How did your parents, your caregivers do rest? Was it something that actually happened in the household? How does your job environment support this phase of, like, even the completion of projects? How do we show up for this with our children and our loved ones? So as we come towards the close of this, those of you who are in rest pose, or those of you, all of you, I just want you to have a think right now of what could you do in this moment to just bring a little bit more rest and ease into where you are right now, even if it's 1 teaspoon. And that might mean that you stretch, or you move, or you take a big breath, or you yawn, or you might want to get up. My hot water bottle. I'm going to have to remove the hot water bottle. You might want to get up and have a little shake. What needs to be completed before you can rest? So when my dog settles, animals are brilliant to follow with this kind of stuff. My dog goes round and round and round. He might even go into the garden and do what we call zoomies. He zooms around, zooms, and then poof, he rests. This is what toddlers do. And this is what I try and encourage my teen girls to do. And also, you know, that journey into stopping, what can we do to enable that to happen? And it will all be different for each one of you. It might be to tell myself it's okay. It might be that I shut my door and I lock it so that no one can come in, just so that thought of someone's going to come in might keep me a bit hyper vigilant. It might be that I turn my phone over. And, you know, thinking of from a sensory perspective. The movement that helps us, the images, scent. So here on by my desk, I have my oils. I've got chamomile. I have my 5-flower remedy. And I have images that are restful around me. So I've got pictures of my animals and my child and sound. What sound works for you? And yesterday I clocked into the session by Donatella, who was doing a continuum, and she spoke about this, about movement that allows us to find ease and that sound. And it's so useful to explore that. So I'm just going to check the chat. So what comes up for you? What might be getting in the way? And I'd love to hear about what you do, or what's coming to mind, like, oh, maybe this could be useful. What sound works? So Sarita's saying screen time gets in the way. And there is something about modern technology, as much as it's amazing, and here we are because of modern technology, it does lead to a hypervigilance, like that scrolling. Sometimes when I struggle with taking rest, I have quite a heightened nervous system, just that's how it's been. And I do a lot to work with that, but I know sometimes it's difficult. So instead of, if I feel like I cannot go fully into a yoga nidra or something, what I do is maybe it's in the afternoon and I'm starting to feel like I'm closing down, I'm going into collapse. I do a hot water bottle, I make a cup of tea, and I take some of my favorite books. I'm a bit of a book geek. And they're like I get comfort from my books. Even if I go up to bed and I lie down and I might not even read my books, and I just have a little quiet time. And that's like my transitional piece towards stopping, because maybe a yoga nidra or a big relaxation is not, it's not available to me. So these little transitional practices that we can do, like even the stopping and having a cup of tea and sensing into that favorite mug, warmth. So for those of you who are maybe still in rest pose, I'm going to invite you to come out. And notice if you are still there, or even if you're sitting in a more of a restful place, bringing yourself more out of that, opening up your eyes, looking around the room, and being curious about your exit out of that. Are you relieved? Thank God. Or is there part of you thinking, I just want to carry on resting? Or did some of you not do it? It happens, right? I'm going to finish with some words by Sharon Blackie from the book, If Women Rose Rooted. When we have given ourselves over to the dark, allowed it to work on us, when we can no longer think, reason, or manage our way out of the crisis we find ourselves in, then what we are left with is the instinct, the soft animal nature of our physical bodies, the songs our senses sing. So I'm going to bring my piece to a close, and then I'm happy to take questions, or I'd love to hear your thoughts. The name of the book is If Women Rose Rooted. I'm just reading some of your. So, Althea, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name right, says, could you please share your thoughts how to embody or go about the state that even if I slow down and try and be and do good to myself, still the misery of cycle changes and mood swings make it very difficult to go through these waves? I would encourage exploration of what works. So some of us, depending on what's going on in our nervous system, some of us are quite activated. And that completion of activation needs to complete, but the activation needs to complete before we rest. So it might be, it's not, oh, just rest. It's never just rest. There's something probably needs to happen. So it might be a bit of running on the spot, jumping up and down, shaking, noise, shouting. And a lot of my sessions, I do a lot around sound, growling, getting that charge out of the system. And then there is more of the possibility. And then there can be the opposite. There can be collapse. So we then have to travel out of collapse to be able to rest. And that could be, it might be comfort, rolling on the floor. It could be touch. It could be really gentle, using a sort of sensorial touch to connect back into the body and to remember the aliveness. And practices like somatic movement can be really, really useful for this. And Christina has put, does HRT affect the wintering? That's a really hard question. And I think it's HRT, hormone replacement. Hormone, and I don't like the word hormone replacement because we have our hormones. They're a hormonal top-up. They land differently in each person's system. And I think sometimes for some people, they might help, and for others, they might not. And but I would say before we go into hormonal top-ups, let's really think about the basic foundation lines of how's my nervous system? What do I need to do to regulate my nervous system? Am I eating okay? What's my blood sugar like? Because if my blood sugar is spiking, it's also going to be really hard to rest because there's that activation through that. Am I getting enough sunlight? And yeah, you can rewatch. I think the recordings will be available.
There will be replays. They become available from the 19th to the 21st of January, and you can also buy them. The replays, I'll post the link in the chat there for you.
Are there any other? What did you find? What was your exploration on this? What are you left with? Or any queries? Any queries that you are left with? It's not to say that I might be able to answer them, but I think it's so important to explore this without having to find direct answers, because it's all an exploration. And what, like I always say this, what works for one person will be different to another.
And Jane, can it be that what worked at one point for one person then doesn't work and they have to find something else?
Hello, yeah, perimenopause. Wow. Complete change for me and I think for a lot of people, how do I take rest? Completely changed, because the hormonal foundation has completely changed. So that affects every system in the body, and there's a shifting. So it's like, how can I support myself through that? And how can I be not attached to the old ways of doing? Because it might be different. But I also like to remember that 25% of women don't get menopausal symptoms as well. So, normalizing that as well. Okay, so Eva is asking, do you have a tip to connect daily with the slow descending energy of winter? I think one of the things that I find really useful to kind of remember the wintering is to pause. So that when for example, when I teach somatic movement, when we do one movement, I get them to pause and notice without an expectation of noticing anything great, but it's the stopping and noticing. Like if they do it on a mat in class, then there will be more of a muscle memory of that to do it during the day, of like quietening. And, I'd love to hear from you. What are your tips from honoring the essence of winter? Because it's there in every day. We in the early evening, late afternoon, early evening, we're going through autumn and we're heading towards that wintry phase. Every interaction has a winter phase to it, ideally. And we ideally we have a balance through the seasons. And there might be a season, like when I did the checking in with you at the start, there might be a season that you kind of have an affiliation or that you do easily. And it's also to think about what are the other seasons and are they well represented in your physiology, in your experience of life. One of the reasons why I chose to do this today was Steve asked me to do a session on female embodiment, and I was thinking I'd do something. What do I normally do? I normally do cycles and things like that. And I was in such a wintry phase of life, and I was starting to think I can't do anything new. I don't know. I just and then I realized I'm so deep in winter for so many reasons. It's winter. I'm experiencing a lot of grief from the world, community grief. And so I'm honoring what's going on for me. And I also realized, I wonder how much that, I know how much that is the case for others as well. And also we can still, if we are in this winter phase of life, if we can honor it, we can still operate. We can still move through life. I can still get my daughter to the train station. I can still put dinner on the table. I can still show up and do this. without going into nervous system chaos.
And I'm aware we're coming to the winter of this talk. There's some interesting comments still in the chat that I think could spark a much longer discussion.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Ron. And so I work with people one-to-one with this kind of thing. So if that's something that you are interested in, do get in touch. And when I'm a little bit less wintry and a more spring-like, I will be I'm in the midst of developing a program to help individuals, groups journey through transitions like perimenopause into menopause, honoring all those parts of their lives. It's percolating, germinating under the earth for me right now.
It's a lovely metaphor. And Jane has done some courses with us. I've pasted some links there in the chat. There's a course on feminine cycles and flow. I've pasted a link for the podcast that she was talking with Karen McMahon about cycles. And you can check out her website at janedancy.com and also find her on Instagram at janedancy. I hope you all enjoyed this. Maybe you can paste in the chat one thing you're taking away from the session. Jen, you're getting lots of thanks as well. A lot of people, I've seen some comments coming into realizations and having some insights about their winter. And obviously, all of the tools that are being offered from different speakers during the festival can be stuff that you can experiment with to do what Jane said, right? To either release something to be able to rest or get you deeper into a more rested state. Authenticity, wisdom, compassion, love, gratitude. Thank you, Jane.
Honoring where we are.
Remove getting caught up with the busyness of others and just rest. Thank you, everybody, for showing up at 8 a.m. In the UK time and whatever time zones you're in. Thank you, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us. There will be a next talk coming up at 10 a.m. UK. That's in an hour from now. So be sure to tune in with that. Thank you for your appreciation, for your gratitude. Thank you for creating such a lovely space.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Jane, very much. It's always a pleasure. I'm going to unmute everyone so you can say hello or thank you or goodbye in your own language.
Bye.
Taldias. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Wow, merci.
Thank you.
Thank